how long?
Well, I think the music business today is probably pretty much the same as it's always been. There's a lot of big dogs out there making a lot of money, but guys like me have been very fortunate because we got lucky with the Jefferson Airplane. We got to be popular very quickly, and interestingly enough, from my point of view, the only more or less traditional rock and roll band record that the band ever made was Surrealistic Pillow, and as a result of the two songs and that, Somebody to Love and White Rabbit, we got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they were songs. A lot of the other stuff were very complicated songs, long jams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They were really unreplicatable in a lot of ways, but as a result of that, and as a result of the guys and gals in the band giving Jack and me an opportunity to play some acoustic insertions in the shows. I think the first one was at the Fillmore East in New York, but somebody knows. I'm guessing that's what it was. That's my vague recollection. But in any case, Jack, I've never quit playing acoustic music. I started out doing that, so it was always sort of lurking in the wings. But as a result of getting that sort of visibility, when Jack and I started to do the acoustic Hot Tuna thing, we were accepted in an interesting kind of way in a rock world. Now, coming out of that whole airplane thing, the Hot Tuna made a bunch of records in the 70s, and we did okay, and then we took a hiatus and stuff. And then there was a long period of time where, as the business was changing, and I think one of the reasons that Jack and I had a chance to do pretty much what we wanted to do with RCA was because of the power the Jefferson Airplane gave us. But as as those ripples dissipated, and the big record companies were no longer as interested in us, then obviously that was that sort of like I don't want to say nadir, but it certainly wasn't a zenith anymore, and that's just how it was. But the thing is, we never quit playing, and we've always been so fortunate because people that have liked to hear us play have always let us do pretty much exactly what we want to do, and underneath the current of all this music business motion, this kind of music has never gone away, ever. And this might be a question if you want to get Barry into this, because Barry's been playing acoustic music for almost as long as I have in a different kind of way. And there's just always audiences for this kind of stuff. I mean, it's...
Oh, sure. I mean, sometimes the Hot Tuna audience overlaps with the bluegrass audience, and bluegrass is my background. I grew up playing bluegrass in the New York City area, of all places. And so we've run into people who are Tuna heads or Jefferson Airplane fans or bluegrass fans, and it's kind of, the nice thing now is that it's all mixed together, and it's kind of a real wide open scene.
Well, come back, baby. Baby, please don't go. Way I love you, child. I want that world to know. Well, come back, babe. Let's talk it over one more time. Now this old world was made one day. Come back, baby. China, don't go away. Well, come back, babe. Let's talk it over one more time. Now this old world was made in sin. Come back, baby, try all over again. We'll come back, babe, let's talk it over one more time. Come back, baby, baby, please don't go. Wait, I love you, child, I want that world to know. Well, come back, baby, let's talk it over one more time. Well, come back, baby, baby, please don't go. Wait, I love you, child, I want that world to know. Well, come back, baby, let's talk it one more time.
We've been taking chances with bluegrass music and acoustic music and folk music and seeing what happens. And now a lot of the bands that are doing what we did back in the 70s and 80s with Country Cooking and Breakfast Special and Tony Trischka and Skyline and the Wretched Refuge String Band. A lot of that stuff, some of the bands that are doing material just like that are really getting over and getting a big audience. It was a matter of time and finding out about it. The thing that I find inspiring about what my worthy constituent here on the guitar has done is he's exposed more people to the real acoustic blues of Gary Davis and Lightning Hopkins and Skip James than I believe anybody in pop music over the last 50 years. And I think that's really a really great accomplishment on his part.
it was an interesting aberration, and I certainly, you know, I'd never really played electric guitar. I had owned amplified guitars. Jack and I, you know, I never really knew about, you know, all that kind of stuff that we all take for granted. I mean, my 17-year-old son can do stuff that would have been incomprehensible to me in my 20s on the electric guitar, you know. But I think what happened is, you know, and you know, it's very flattering what Barry said there, but the music really speaks for itself. And, you know, you opened a geeky can of worms there, because I'm not really a Piedmont style player, though, although I've learned from a lot of those guys. I'm not a specialist in that style. There's a lot of guys out there. You know, there's a local guy, Toby Walker, brilliant guitar player. A lot of you guys know who he is and stuff like that. That know a lot of that kind of stuff better than I do. But when I was coming up and learning, my inability to be able to clone the masters, and I still revere all these guys as masters because they are masters, but my inability to nail all that stuff in the way that some of the guys that were like a generation or half a generation ahead of me at that time caught me a lot of flack back then, because the guys go, oh, well, you know, the Reverend didn't play it like this, and all I could say is, well, I do, you know, and it's worked out okay for me, you know. So there's a lot of different ways to go with this, and it's so interesting because there's so much of this great material available to us today. You know, when I was starting to learn Reverend Davis stuff, I had 2 albums. I had the one on Riverside that had Pink Anderson on one side and then the Reverend on the other, and Harlem Street Singer, and that was it. And that's all I listened to for a couple of years. That was it. End of story. Little Brownie McGee, you know. Other than that, I just really concentrated on that and tried to learn the songs and stuff like that. But, you know, once again, the music speaks for itself, you know, and a lot of people, you know, like Barry was alluding to, I remember in the beginning, I'd be working on doing a show at, you know, my father's place in Long Island or something like that. If you survive that, you can survive anything. Yeah, Roslyn, New York. And a lot of, you know, back in those days, some of the younger kids thought that I'd invented that music, you know, and I was able to say, no, I didn't. You need to go and check. Yeah, I'm good at what I do, but you need to go to the source. You need to see where all this stuff came from. And the Piedmont style, you know, it's just so interesting from, if you look at it from a guitar player's point of view, each player is complete in and of himself. You know, you think about Blind Blake, Blind Boy Fuller, Blind Gary Davis, I mean, so many, John Steve, well, Steve is not really a Piedmont player, but he's sort of like it. So many of those guys. I was just playing down, I did a solo show at the Grey Eagle in Asheville, and it's a great little folk club in Asheville, North Carolina, and almost everybody that worked at the club was a really good fingerstyle player, a Piedmont style player, and the audience too. So it was sort of like, I mean, in a way, it was really exciting for me to play for people who were so steeped in this stuff as much as I am, you know. And it was cool. It was really cool, like hanging out with some of the guys, like one of the sound guys, and he's playing, well, oh, shit, that's really good, you know. How'd you do
that? There once was a man in this holy land, had nails in his feet and nails in his hands. Well, mother and father, I say unto thee, will suffer little children, come unto me. You learn about hogs, learn about sheep, learn about dogs, and you learn how to eat. You learn about cars, but I say unto thee, will suffer little children, come unto me. You learn to be doctors and learn to read law. Learn how to judge and pick every flaw. You go to your college and buy your degree. Will suffer little children, come on to me. You learn how to opine and philosophize, to argue and chatter and so criticize. Well, the sun and the moon in his astrology will suffer little children, come on to me. Now Now you learn about dollars and cents. Years of your life so foolishly spent. Now bear this in mind as you lay doomed to be. With suffer little children, come on to me. Suffer little children, come on to me. Suffer little children, come on.
My first reaction is that there must be other kinds of music that you improvise in, but I couldn't tell you what it is right now. But bluegrass and jazz both require an amazing amount of dexterity and practice, and both forms have wings or sides of the music that have more or less improv. In other words, there's traditional jazz of like Louis Armstrong or Earl Hines, where they improvise, but they don't take it as outside as Miles Davis or Sun Ra. And the same thing is true with bluegrass. Some of the guys improvise. I mean, Bill Monroe would always tell you to play the melody, and then you'd listen to some of his records where he didn't play anything resembling the melody, and he improvised. But there's all different levels of improvisation too. Some guys, like the guys I grew up on, Tony Trischka, Andy Statman, Stacy Phillips, they took it way outside and really played some wild stuff. And then there's guys who are more, bound by the tradition. And I'm thrilled that there are still people that play, straight ahead or keep their improvisations kind of marginal. Just they don't go as far.
I have to comment also that Barry implied this also. Both these music forms are very high maintenance. You really have to be able to play to pull this stuff off. I mean, these are not wacky one-chord psychedelic jams. I mean, this is the real deal, and they're okay too. Don't get me wrong. Heck, Jack and I built our career on wacky one-chord jams, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's very high maintenance stuff, and the way I just read this book about Charlie Parker called Kansas City Lightning, and they talk about all the dialogue between the players coming up, and they're thinking about intervals and all this kind of heady stuff that most of us might instinctively go to, but I mean, it's really intellectual, heady stuff, and they really got out there with a lot of these things, and they had to be really, really good in order to manifest what they were thinking about.
Well, how long, baby, how long? That evening train been gone. It's been gone since that blood red sun went down. I'm walking down the track, Mama, Lord, I said, feeling so sad. Lost the best woman man ever had. How long, baby, how long? Well, how long, baby, how long? That evening train been gone. It's been gone since that blood red sun went down. Baby, how long? That evening train been gone. It's been gone since that blood red sun went down. You know, I thought I heard a whistle, Mama, Lord, and now I think I see a train. Deep in my heart there is aching pain. How long? Well, how long? Baby, how long? How long? Baby, how long? That evening train been gone. It's been gone since that blood red sun went down.
Thank you. Spencer, may he rest in peace, our drummer, got this python, and in that big mansion, the coolest thing about that mansion was a huge Tiffany stained glass window. It was probably worth more than the whole house. But anyway, we had this pool table, and I remember Janice and Grace. I hate to drop names, but it happened to be Janice and Grace. Were shooting pool, and the game was truncated because the python had gone down into the pool table. It stuck its head out of one of the holes. I do remember that. Good times. Oh no, there's another one too. This one involves Owsley. God bless him. Owsley is in many respects responsible for all the modern sound systems we take for granted today. I mean, aside from his other talents, he was really a genius for stuff like that. But he had a lot of interesting aberrations, and one of them was he only ate meat. And when I say he only ate meat, I mean he only ate meat. And his thing was, vegetables are what food eats. That's the way he looked at it. So, and he didn't like to waste it. I remember we had this big Viking stove in the kitchen at the airplane house, and I remember when I was in between houses, my ex-wife, may she rest in peace, and I were sharing a room upstairs, and I smelled this noxious, this odious, unpleasant odor emanating from the kitchen. And what it was this gigantic cauldron where he was throwing these huge blocks of fat and suet, he being Owsley. And I remember asking me, "What are you doing?" And what he said was, "Rendering down the fat." Good times.
They used to tell me I was building a dream, and so I followed the mob. When there was work to do or arms to bear, I was always on the job. They used to tell me I was building a dream with peace and glory ahead. And why should I be sitting here waiting in line just for bread? Once I built a railroad and made it run, made it race against time. Once I built a railroad, now it's done, brother, can you spare a dime? Once I built a tower up to the sun, bricks and mortar and lime. once I built a tower. Now it's done, brother. Can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, boy, gee, we look swell, filled with that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went slogging through hell, and I was the kid with the drum. Say, don't you remember they called me Al? It was Al all the time. Say, don't you remember I'm your pal? I said, brother, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, boy, gee, we look swell, filled with that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots, they went slogging through hell, and I was the kid with the drum. Say, don't you remember they called me Al? It was Al all the time. Say, don't you remember I'm your pal? I said, can you spare a dime? Say, don't you remember I'm your pal? I said, buddy, can you spare a dime?
Thank you. Well, like I said, I tend to be deadline driven. Every now and then something happens, like the song I did in my dreams. That one line came to me as I was waking up. We never seem to age in my dream, and I got up and I started messing with stuff, and so that started from that one line. And I started messing around with some moving chords and stuff like that. But a lot of the time, I think when that infrequently that happens. Sometimes something. You get an inspiration. You got to follow it immediately. You can't turn your phone on. You can't turn the TV on, the computer. Those are all spirit killers. It'll be gone, and it'll never come back. And when I write, I like to write with a pencil and paper. I'll edit on computers and stuff like that, but I actually like to scribble stuff down. Sometimes you get an inspiration like that, and sometimes you'll be messing with a set of chords or something, and maybe a lyric will pop up. Barry just showed me a chord the other day to see if I can remember it. Here we go. I'm going to write a song with that chord. Well, what a cool chord. How come I never knew that one before? Anyway. It comes from different places, but I think the important thing, Stephen Pressfield, the author, the guy that wrote Legend of Bagger Vance and Gates of Fire, he wrote a book called The War of Art, a little pamphlet thing about the creative process. And basically what he says in this thing is get off your ass and do something. That's what the whole thing is. I mean, you just got to start doing and messing around with it. Now, I know a lot of guys that write songs for a living, like Guy Clark and Berlin Thompson and Jim Lauderdale, guys like this. These are tunesmiths. I'm not a tunesmith. And when I talk to Jim about writing, because I've worked with him a little bit, because he likes to write for other people, his thing is if you're going to write a song that you hope will be a hit for someone else, then it needs to be a song where they don't need to know you to like the song. That doesn't concern me much, Playing music is having conversations with people, and I guess having a decent conversation with your audience is where you want to get to. But it's it's an interesting thing from a performer's point of view, because when you put something out there, and I'm guilty of the same thing. What we hear may not necessarily be exactly what the artist is putting out there, but if you dig it and you get something from it, it's a good thing. I mean, all of us that write stuff at some point, you agonize. Well, they really didn't understand what I was saying. But then you realize, but they liked it, so what difference does it make,
Well, every mountain has two sides. Which side are you on? Most time spent just climbing up, and the rest is sliding down. Well, the light you take for granted when the climb begins will let you wander in the dusk as the trail nears its end. A flight of fancies turns my head. I can't see where I've been. I must have passed the torch they passed, but I can't remember when. Well, I never thought it easy. Fear dogged my every move. One foot past the other, looking for the groove. In my imagination, a kingdom called my name, but the closer to the top I got was still the same old same. I couldn't see the forest, there were way too many trees. I'm looking for some meaning, Lord, why won't you help me please? Well, we talk about the purpose, the meaning to this climb. Life itself is its reward and the bonus piece of mind. Get forgiveness for the things we didn't do. Sometimes the blame, it shakes our soul. We can't believe it's true. I seek a congregation to hold me to the flame. Rise from ashes cloaked in grace and softly call my name. Well, the life up on this mountain is the only one I've gotten. The day of passing frown, I'll give it my best shot. Well, the road that leads forever could be better than today. In any case, I'll stay the course no matter what they say. Only shortcut exit, a solution I can't take. I climb and fall until they call my name. Well, the backside of this mountain is the only one I know. The upward climb, a distant thought that melts like passing snow. Memory of that moment, like a postcard in the dust, reminds me even pilotless steel will slowly turn to rust. Try to hold this moment like a precious thought of grace, and try to find the road ahead to some celestial place.
Well, I lucked into 100-some acres in Ohio in the late '80s, and when we just joked around, if it had been left to me, I would have had a couple of hay bales around a campfire or something. But my wife was a civil engineer before we got married, and so she went, "We're going to do this," so we did that, and it's an interesting little community. I'm gonna actually get Barry to weigh on this because he's been there a bunch of times. He just sold out a mandolin class, I believe.
Right.
He's outselling me. What's up with that? but anyway, it's a 4-day weekend, Monday, a Friday morning to Monday morning. And aside from the great instructors and the food and the fact that we're in a very beautiful part of the country, et cetera, it creates an interesting sort of a musical community of like-minded spirits. And it sounds sappy to talk about this. I say it all the time, but if anybody who's been there will know what I'm talking about. Weigh in, Bear.
Well, it's what do they call those camps where you hang out with superstars or athletes?
Fantasy camps.
It's not a fantasy camp.
It is not.
It's not a dream camp. It's you just go there and you play music for 4 days, which you don't get a chance to do at home. And when I first started going there in 2002, cell phones didn't even work there. So you were really away from the world. And you just teach. I generally teach 7 classes over a 4-day period. There's a concert Saturday night put on by the faculty, and then this concert put on by the students on Sunday. It's really transformative. It's a great place, and we've formed friendships there that have become very, very strong. We have one friend who's been there 35 times in the last.
God bless him. I wish I had 1 million of them.
But it's a really great hang. There's nature paths. There's a campfire. There's, on one weekend of the summer, they have motorcycle rides alternating with guitar classes.
How good does it have to get? You know, and in the words of, do you ever have a bookbinder on this show? Really? Didn't have Roy up here? You got to get. Oh yeah, man, you'll have fun talking to him. You won't be able to shut him up. But anyway, Roy talks about the Fur Peach Ranch. He goes, I get to play the guitar and talk about myself all weekend. I can't do that at home. Well, once I'd live a life of a millionaire, spending my money, I didn't care. Well, taking my friends out for a real fine time, buying them whiskey, champagne, and wine. Then I began to fall so low, didn't have a dime, no place to go. Well, if I ever get my hands on that dollar again, I'm gonna squeeze it till that ego grins, because nobody knows you when you're down and out. Well, I said, in your pocket there's not 1 penny. Look for your friends, now you just haven't any. When you get back on your feet again, I said, everybody wants to be your long lost friend. Well, telling you, brother, without a doubt, nobody knows you when you're down and out.
When I said, when you get back on your feet again, I said, everybody wants to be your long lost friend. Well, telling you, brother, without a doubt, nobody knows you when you're down and out. I mean to tell you, when you're down and out.
Thank you. But I think good music speaks for itself, and it's just a matter of taste, you know. I mean, we argue about it all the time. You like it, you like it. I think my son's favorite band is the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I like them too, you know. Yeah, what's not to like? You know? Under the Bridge, using a major seventh chord. But see, because I learned that because of him. But anyway, no. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with the story, with the tell, you know. And I think if the lyrics don't really somehow relate to any of us, regardless of what your age is, then, you know, yeah, the music's great, but I don't know. I mean, for me, it's really about the tell. And if I'm hearing music done by somebody I consider to be professional, I expect them to be able to play. That's why they're recording. So I don't even have to think about that. Oh, he's a great guitar player. He's working. He's probably a great guitar player or whatever, you know. So I listen to what story are they telling, you know. And I think that's the stuff. You know, if you think about the music that I grew up with, used to drive my father nuts. You know, I mean, my father had a hi-fi. It wasn't even a stereo; it was a mono. Chuck Berry records, all this stuff that we were getting. Don't put them on my hi-fi; it'll ruin the thing. But of course, as soon as he was out of the house, you know. But the thing is, you know, after it's all said and done, and towards the end of my father's life, he realized that Chuck Berry was a great American folk poet, which he is, you know. But he didn't get it at the time, but it was everything to us. I mean, Sweet Little 16, driving around. I mean, come on, you know. So the words meant something to us then. So if you're listening to a song where the words really don't mean anything to you, regardless of how artfully they're written or presented, you can go, yeah, it's nice, but, you know. What happened with all of us, not just the rock musicians and that whole San Francisco thing, but the folk music scene and all this stuff was so, you know, inextricably involved with the politics and the mindset of the time. And I don't see that happening today because it's hard to say what the mindset of our time really is from my point of view. And so it was really easy to take sides and to talk about stuff back then. I mean, the issues were very, very clear, at least in my memory, that's the way it seems, you know. And you think about all the, you know, like, you know, the first time I heard Joan Baez, it changed my life. It was unbelievable, you know. And all these singers and Pete Seeger and that whole deal and you know, the countless people we could think about. And then the bands that were writing topical songs in the 60s, and I'm certainly not being disparaging about any of the more professional bands that had hits back in the days, you know, because in a lot of respects, one of the magic I think that happened with me and some of my guys is because in our way we were so unprofessional, we were unfettered by the need to write that hit song. That drove the record companies crazy, you know. But I remember when records came out back then, if you're waiting for like a Crosby, Stills and Nash record or a New Doors record or an Airplane record or whatever, you wanted to hear what they had to say. And a lot of what they had to say had to do with stuff that was in the headlines at the time, you know. And that's not this time. I mean, you'll notice, by the way, and this is really strong on my part, I didn't bring my phone on stage with me, so I have no idea what's happening in the world right now. And that's okay. And that's not bad, you know, because it's just always like, oh, shit, you know, a new headline, whatever, you know. So the answer is probably yes. I don't know where it is. It's going to be different. I mean, the issues aren't as clear as they were when we were kids.
Well, come back, baby. Baby, please don't go. Way I love you, child. I want that world to know. Well, come back, babe. Let's talk it over one more